is Liz Cheney. She's chairwoman of KeepAmericaSafe.com and former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State. Liz, thanks so much for being here. What a day to have you booked as part of our lineup. This is obviously your area of expertise, and your thoughts on what we've seen over the past couple of hours.
Well, thanks, Megan. It's good to be with you. I think that there's a lot that we still don't know about what we've seen. I think that it's very possible that this could be a test. We certainly know that al-Qaeda continues to probe, continues to look for weaknesses in our system, ways to attack us. And there is some evidence based on what we've seen in terms of the reports out of England that this was a sinister package but not a bomb, that could be what's going on here. But as I say, we don't know. One of the things we do know is that often first reports in events like this turn out to be wrong. So I think it's important to wait, to continue to get the reports that are coming in before we make definitive judgments about what we're dealing with here.
You know, Liz, we've been watching in connection with this election cycle the American people's mood and their focus, and for obvious reasons, the focus is jobs and the economy in this country more than anything else, and all the polls have told us that. And national security, it's a good thing, you could argue, has moved down the list in terms of the things that Americans most worry about, because you know, thankfully, we have been kept safe for so many years now, with some notable homegrown terror exceptions. You know, now that we get this threat, whether it's just a dry run, whether it's real, whether it was a hoax, all of which raises a big question mark. But, you know, according to our government, al-Qaeda on the Arabian Peninsula is the #1 suspect. How does it change that mood here? And is it for the better?
Well, I think that throughout, you know, we have always had, since 9/11, a heightened threat, and we've been at war. And I think that, you know, election cycles come and go, but the threat that the nation faces has clearly not diminished. And I would also point out, you know, you've been talking about precautions that we can take in order to defend ourselves, and I think that it's very important that we, in fact, do have those precautions, that those seem to have been taken in a number of instances in this event. But we cannot operate simply on the defensive. We also have to operate on the offense. And I think that you see at a time like this how important, for example, intelligence is, how important it is for us to make sure that we've empowered our own intelligence community and that we're working closely with our allied intelligence communities to be able to disrupt plots before, in fact, they come to fruition. I also think this points out how important our efforts in Afghanistan are and why it's so important that we cannot simply pull out at an arbitrary deadline next July, but that we've got to be there to win, that we've got to be there to ensure that al-Qaeda does not again get a safe haven from which to operate in Afghanistan. So none of these things happen in isolation, and while I think it's absolutely true that people are very concerned here about the economy and about jobs, it certainly doesn't change the nature or the level of the threat that we face, or the fact that we remain a nation at war.
Liz, can do me a favor and stand by just for 1 minute, because I want to go to Trace Gallagher, who's out in L.A. With some breaking news now on a conference call. Trace, between whom?
This is DHS and TSA. Megan, they're talking about steps now that they're planning to take to increase security. We told you a short while ago that DHS came out and said, in fact, they would increase security at airports, not only for cargo, but as well for passengers. So now we just got off the phone with a TSA spokesperson who says they are on a conference call. This is a national conference call we're talking about to go over what these measures will be. So they may not be implemented right now, but they will be implemented in the coming hours, certainly in the coming days, and there is a conference call right now. As soon as that conference call finishes, they are going to call us back and give us the details, so we'll be able to give our viewers a better idea of exactly what security procedures will be enhanced and which security procedures will change, give you a better idea of maybe how much time you need to go to the airport, because you can expect that in coming hours, days, and weeks, they will bump up the security measures being taken to the airports. We just told you yesterday they put another one of those body scan machines. They've got 300 of them online. The new one put in place in Newark Airport. They'll be utilizing those more. You'll see a lot more security presence at airports beginning now.
Indeed we will. Trace, thank you. I want to go back to Liz Cheney now. Liz, let me pick up on something. So Trace tells us that the TSA and the Department of Homeland Security are now having a conference call, national conference call, talking about tightening up the procedures, heightening security, aviation security in the wake of this. What good does it do as a practical matter? Or do we need to be focused more on, like you pointed out, cooperation with our allies, shoring up our intel, you know, on a more global scale than what a lot of people, let's face it, consider no more than mere comfort checks as we go through security at the airports?
Well, Megan, I think we need to do it all. I think that, frankly, most Americans understand now that, it has just become more time-consuming to travel, and that there are certain things we have to do now that we didn't have to do before 9/11. And frankly, I think most of us understand that. And certainly, I think it's important for us to make sure that we have taken every step we can to ensure the safety of air travel. But I think what we have to understand is that this probing that al-Qaeda does, and that we've seen them do, frankly, historically, they look for the weakest spot in our system. They look for us, if we've closed the barn door after the horse is out in one area, they're going to look for another area from which to attack us. And that's why intelligence becomes so important. It's why I believe that the steps that this president has taken, for example, threatening to prosecute intelligence officials, are so dangerous and damaging for the nation. It's why the WikiLeaks, the leaks are so damaging, because when you're in a situation where other countries' intelligence services begin to wonder if they can count on us and have to worry that information they share with us will then become public, that people could be killed because of it, it makes that cooperation, frankly, much more difficult. And it's that cooperation at the end of the day that's so critical for winning this war. And again, denying safe havens, making clear that we won't allow Afghanistan to become a safe haven. And I know people become weary of the fact that we've got troops committed there. This president continues to say we're going to begin withdrawing in July next year. And that is very dangerous and very damaging for the Taliban, for al-Qaeda to think they just have to wait until after July and they will then again have a safe haven there from which to plot attacks. So we've got to be sure that we're operating on all fronts, but I worry that this administration has not been on the offense nearly as much as they need to be.
I mean, obviously we don't have an administration defender on today, Liz, but I'm sure they would want me to point out that they have, used drones much more effectively than any other administration, and they did commit an additional 30,000 troops to Afghanistan, even though there is this withdrawal beginning deadline. Not to mention the system in this case does appear to have worked. In particular, they say because an ally cooperated by giving us a tip. In any event, you frame the issue as well.
I think it's important. It's important for us, obviously, to say that any time that an attack is prevented, that's a good thing. But that we can't depend upon treating terrorism like a law enforcement matter. It doesn't matter that we have recently been able to, get plea bargains, for example, from one of the terrorists in Guantanamo Bay. That has no impact whatsoever on terrorists continuing to plot attacks against us. And so that we clearly have to be the offense, and we have to realize we're at war.
Yeah, sadly that is the case. I mean, as today perhaps proves, it's as your dad's and George Bush's administration used to say all the time, is that they wake up every day thinking about new ways to kill us, and sadly that just appears to be the hard truth. Liz Cheney, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Megan. I appreciate it.
Going to go now live to London.